All right. So here is our question. What is your favorite dish to make for dinner? Like if you could make anything, what would it be? It's totally non-writing related.
I'll go first.
Okay.
I'd make Japanese curry.
Wow. I've never had that.
You're missing out. It's one of those meals that you eat so much that you have to like put your arms up to make more room in your stomach because you're
Yeah.
so full.
I want you to clarify the question.
What's your
Are you
favorite
asking what I make a lot of,
what's your favorite
or
thing to make for dinner?
okay, so my favorite thing to make. Okay.
Reservations?
Reservations. Yeah.
She knows me well. Tacos.
Mm.
Yeah. So my grandma had this concoction, and if you put it in shells, it was tacos. If you put it on buns, it was sloppy joes. If you put it on noodles, it was called spaghetti. If you added some beans to it and added a little water, you called it chili. She was a horrible cook, and but she loved serving us tacos, and then sloppy joes the next night. So anyway, somebody else. I'll go. So my mom though was a great cook, and I grew up at this Hispanic church, and we would have these potlucks, and it was Redeemer Temple. If anybody's ever heard of Redeemer Temple, and this woman Rachel Martinez would bring this pork chili to our potlucks, and they called it grandma's. So my mom got the recipe, and she started making it, and we called it Rachel's. And so I learned it from my mom, and it's the easiest thing in the world to make. And one of my daughters now makes it. My daughter Allie, the one in Nashville, and she made it for the first time the other night, and she's like, "Dad, it was perfect." And it's just chopped up pork, and the secret is bacon grease. You've got to fry the pork in bacon grease, and you have potatoes in there, and add some garlic salt, and then a whole can of jalapenos and water and flour, and that makes like my favorite thing to make. And my mom used to make it every Friday night, and that was the way she ensured her teenage kids were home for dinner.
Oh, that's funny.
So anyway, Kevin, how about you?
I like flat iron steak with artichokes, and that's my daughter. She came
I
down to visit. And as far as yeah, pot or starch, maybe like a new potatoes, something like that, with maybe garlic and rosemary. That'd be
sounds
good.
great. I've never made a flat iron steak.
It's quite good, and it's fairly reasonable as far as cost. What's nice about it is it's well marbled. I mean it's not there's not a lot of fat with that, so you're not buying a ribeye, which is very expensive,
Right.
and yet you get the marbling, so it's very tender. And if you cook the whole steak rather than cut it up, yeah, you can it cuts nicely. If you cut
Hmm.
it at an angle, it presents well, and I usually do it like family style, serve it out on a big plate and everybody takes what they needs.
Nice. Sounds really good. Josh, how about you? If you can hear me,
Guys,
there we go.
Yeah, um, I'm pretty simple. Just some lean protein on the grill or George Foreman and raw vegetables and sauerkraut and stuff. There's I don't have much time to cook, so I keep it simple. And where I live, there's not many restaurants to go to. So
Right. Nebraska.
now when I come to Denver, I like to go to Ted's Montana Grill and a few places like that.
Yeah, it's reservations, like Tracy said.
right.
Terry, how about you?
Probably just something simple like chili or something like that is what I'm thinking. So
Yeah,
yeah,
easy to make.
yeah.
Sounds good. All right. I'm going to share the devotion tonight. Yeah. So, let's see here. I'm going to share my screen. I'm actually going to show you my Bible software. I'm going to read the scripture from my Bible software. But hold on. First, I'm going to do this. Okay, now we're going to go Bible software. Anybody ever heard of Logos Bible software?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, got it. Own it.
I used to have it, but I don't anymore.
I have been using this since 1997. And it's like I'm on it every day. Okay, so I want to read a scripture passage here, and this is Genesis. No, I'm actually going to go to Hebrews 11:4, where it says, "Now Abel kept flocks, and Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. And Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast." I read that this morning. I'm like, now why did God accept Abel's offering but not Cain's? And so I want to take you back to the original story, which is in Genesis 4. Now Abel kept flocks, and Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord, and Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain. Did I just read that? But Cain and his offering, he did not look with favor, so Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. So anyway, it says the Lord looked with favor on Abel, and so first of all, I want you to notice the order. God, let me see here. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering. God first looked at the person and then his offering. And there is something that's important for us as writers, especially the kind of writing that we're doing here. Everything that we do, Abel offered an offering to God, and our writing is, first of all, an offering to God. Paul writes in Colossians 3:23, "Whatever you do, work it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving." Every article we write, every chapter we labor over, every devotion, poem, story, everything that we do is an offering. But Hebrews tells us, let's see here. Hebrews tells us, actually I didn't read this one. By faith God brought God a better offering than Cain did. By faith he was commended as righteous when God spoke well of his offerings, and by faith Abel still speaks, even though he's dead. Hebrews tells us that Abel's offering was better. And why was it better? And so three things that scholars often point to. First of all, Abel offered his offering in faith. Hebrews says Abel offered his sacrifice by faith. You notice this here, right here. By faith, Abel brought God a better offering. Cain may have brought something to God, but it wasn't in faith. So I was just an hour ago, I'm thinking about this. And I want to scroll down to verse 6 in Hebrews, because this is all in the context. He's talking about Abel, then he moves on to Enoch for a moment, but then he says, "And without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists, and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him." Now, Cain and Abel both believe that God exists, but I don't think that Cain earnestly sought after God. He was going through the motions. I think he knew God, but he was going through the motions. So God rewarded Abel by receiving his offering, and that was faith. He offered it in faith. I don't think Cain offered his offering in faith. So this is important to us. Why do we write? Do we write primarily to impress people? Do we write primarily to build a platform to sell books and make money? I think the best writing begins with a quieter motivation, and that's, "Lord, I'm offering this to you." So faith changes writing from performance into worship. So Abel offered his offering in faith, diligently seeking God, believing that God was going to reward him, and he did, because he received that offering, because he was earnestly seeking him. So Abel offered his best. Scholars say Genesis tells us Abel brought the firstborn. Here, I'll go back to. So it says Abel. Let's find it here. And Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. He gave the best. He didn't bring the leftovers to God. And I think even for us as writers, what we offer to God, we offer him the best that we have. We offer him. It's not perfection, but it's a commitment to excellence. It's it's improving on our skills. As a writer, I've been at this for a long time, and it's easy to get lazy and just write and not do it for the Lord and do it with excellence. But writing itself, what if writing itself is an act of stewardship? What if we said, Lord, I'm giving you the best, my best thinking, my best craft, my best effort? Not because perfection is required, but maybe our writing is also an act of gratitude to God for what he's done for us. So the third part about this that scholars often say, God saw Abel before he saw the offering. Genesis says God looked with favor on Abel and his offering. It's right here in the highlighted part. The person mattered first. He looked with favor on Abel and his offering. And so this is freeing for us, because many of us secretly believe something like this: if I write something great, then I'll matter. But God reverses that. You matter before the words are written. You matter before the book is finished. You matter before the manuscript gets accepted. Your identity doesn't come from the offering. The offering flows from who you are, from your identity as a follower of Christ. So every time we sit down to write, we're bringing to God an offering, a page, an idea, a story, a truth we're trying to articulate. The question is not, is this offering perfect? The question is this offering given in faith? Are we offering this to God in faith? Do we believe, going back to Hebrews 11:6, do we come to him and believe that he exists? And we probably all believe that he exists, but do we believe that he rewards those who diligently seek him? Not the fame, not the money. Are we seeking him and giving it in prayer, in faith? So just a little something I was reading this morning, wanted to share that. I'm going to pray for us and then give the announcements. So, Lord, bless our time together. Thank you for bringing Terry back to our community. And Lord, it's just good to see him again. He's been a longtime friend. And Lord, I pray you bless the rest of our time together in your name. Amen. A couple announcements, and I'll open it up if anybody else has announcements. First of all, the Rocky Mountain Christian Writers Conference is not happening in May. And for a bunch of reasons, partly because Jerry Jenkins has his Pinnacle Writing Conference, Christian Writing Conference, in April, April, and he actually emailed me about 3 weeks ago, and kind of half-heartedly apologized for being behind the reason why we don't have that conference. But he asked if I would promote it, and so I'm going to send out a big email on Monday to all the different channels about his conference. It's April 17 through 19 at CCU, and he's speaking. Anne Graham Lotz is speaking. A few other fiction authors I haven't heard of, but I'm sure you have, because I'm not a fiction reader much, unless Tracy's writing a book. Then I read those. But anyway, so and there are promo discounts. They're going to have a $100 discount for Colorado residents, and I'll include that promo code when I send it. So if you're able to make it, it'll be worth it. And actually, one thing led to another with Jerry, and Illumify is going to be a sponsor in that conference. So I'm going to be there.
Cool.
And I met with Jamie Mansfield today, and she's going to be there. So I think it'll be good. The other thing I wanted to mention is that Rob Rush's son passed away on Tuesday. And some of you knew he had a special needs son. And Rob had emailed me a week or two ago just saying that he didn't think his son had much time. So anyway, he passed away, and his son, they're going to have the memorial service for his son on March 28th, Saturday, March 28th at let me look at my calendar here. At 1 o'clock. His son is named Shane, and it's at Southwest Community Church. I will send an email to everybody about that. I'm going to be there if anybody wants to sit with me. I just, when a person has a loved one pass away, for me, it's just important to show up. And so I'm going to be there. And so let me know if you want to come. Does anybody else have any announcements?
I just want to let people know, keep your eyes and ears open. We're going to be releasing the Come and Write, um, uh, the retreat. It's going to be coming up. Once I get my act together, I'll have the website ready for registration. But it's going to be the weekend of October 23rd, 24th, and 25th. So it's going to be a time to get away, come and write, fellowship, and just enjoy each other. So we'll be sending that link out to get signed up for that retreat.
You know that cup that you gave away at the first retreat? You know what I'm talking about? The white cup with the.
Oh, yeah.
I drink out of that every day in my office.
Well,
So, anyway,
And
anybody else
just
have an
to let
announcement?
I just want to add on to Tracy's announcement. We are going to do that a little bit differently this year. There will not be any kind of breakouts. So it's strictly going to be a come and write. And then if you want to hook up with somebody to critique together or visit or network, that's great. But we are not going to have any like planned breakouts this year.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
My microphone there.
All right. So I met Terry Whalen. I don't think he even remembers this. 25 years ago, I was working full time as a freelancer at that point, and we met on an American Bible Society thing called forministry.com, and I met him in Colorado Springs, and anyway, so I've known about Terry forever. Terry has written a ton of books and knows everybody in Christian publishing. And he's been a part of our community until he moved to Southern California. So Terry had emailed me I don't know, I think it was after one of my parents died. And we were just trading back and forth. I'm like, I knew we were going to have a Zoom meeting. I'm like, Terry, come speak to us. And so Terry agreed. And so it's just good to have you a part of us again, Terry.
Well, I'm very glad to be here and have this opportunity with you guys. So appreciate it very much. So, yeah.
All right, take it away.
So I believe that we live in one of the greatest times in human history. I was listening to a webinar about a year ago, and I heard that statement from Marcus Duhay, who was the chief executive officer. He stepped back from this, but he was the head of Penguin Random House. And he said that we live in one of the greatest times in history since Gutenberg invented the printing press. And I believe that's true. I mean, it's really amazing. And I think a lot of us, with our everyday lives, we just forget that. I mean, there's all these people that have nostalgia. They want to go back to the 60s or the 50s or any of those things. I don't have any desire to do that. I think it's amazing the people that we can communicate with just in the little thing that we carry in our pockets all the time. I think it's just phenomenal. So tonight, what I wanted to do was just give you 7 simple actions to boost your publishing life. And I've prepared a handout, and I'm not too good on the Zoom stuff, but let me see here. So if I share, can I, is that my screen? Do you see my screen now? Is that working, Mike?
Yes, we can see your 7 actions.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, what I want to show you here is that at the bottom of this is I have a link there, a simple link. If you go to terrylinks.com forward / 7 simple actions, or just click on this. No, you can't click on it, but 7 simple, let's see, there it is, 7 simple actions. terrylinks.com / 7 simple actions. Then you'll be able to go to all these different links that I have in my handout here so that you can get this additional information later on. That's part of the way I do my handouts. I'm not a PowerPoint guy or any of that kind of thing, but I like these handouts. And so the first simple action that I'd tell you that you could do is get connected. And I think LinkedIn is one of the more important places to be connected because I ignored LinkedIn for a long time, but a lot of these people in publishing move around all the time. And what I find is that when they move, they it's not 100%, but most of the time they take their LinkedIn account with them. So it's very important to be connected on LinkedIn. And that's often the very first place that I go when I want to reach out to somebody that I haven't talked to in a long time, just to see how to get connected to them, because that email address or contact information that's in that link, their LinkedIn profile, is likely something they're going to take with them. The other day, I was trying to reach an editorial director with a pitch that I was going to make, and so I went to the LinkedIn and looked, and that editor was no longer there. They were a publishing consultant now. So they changed their LinkedIn profile. So it's really a great place to. So if you're not using LinkedIn, I'd encourage you to beef up your profile over there, get it all up to date. But then if you and I aren't connected, I would encourage you to, I'm just under Terry Whalen. So just send me a connection invitation and let's get connected on LinkedIn. Like I say, I ignored this site for a long time, but now I think I have over 19,700 connections on LinkedIn. So I'm connected to a lot of people over there. I post on LinkedIn about 12 to 15 times a day. So I have a very active presence over there. But I really think it's true what I have on here, that who you know is almost as important as what you know, more important than what you know, because reaching the right person and making the right connection is really a key part, I think, of the whole publishing business. The second action that I give you tonight is just to get published. It amazes me to go to these writers' conferences and people will pitch me their book project or whatever, and I'll listen to it and I'll say, that's a really great idea. Send that to me, and I give them my business card. I follow up afterwards, but what I found from doing that over and over is that probably only 10-15% of those people actually send me their stuff at the end of the day. So I don't know what happens to them. I've heard this from other editors too, other people, that they don't get the material. So one of the ways that you can distinguish yourself and get published is really get published in all different kinds of publications and all different kinds of things. The Christian Writers Market Guide is what my link is to here, and that's this 2006 Christian Writers Market Guide. I mean, it has over 150 publications that are in there, and I think that's lots of opportunity, for each of us. And I think, at least from my experience, if you get published in magazines, that will be, you'll reach more people doing that than you ever will with a book. I mean, if your book sells 5,000 copies throughout the life of the book, that's a good number. But with a magazine article, it's very easy to reach 100,000, 200,000, 500,000 people. But try different kinds of writing is one of the things that I would really encourage you to do. Look at the guidelines. Almost every magazine, like I say, there's 150 magazines in the current Christian Writers Market Guide. And almost every magazine takes personal experience stories. And we all have those stories of things that happen to us. So write those up, have a great headline, have a solid opening, a beginning, a middle, and end, and go a takeaway for the reader. And you'll be able to get that stuff published. I mean, I was at a writers' conference and I saw the editor of The Upper Room. And I have been published in The Upper Room, but it had been years since I'd been published there. And so she really encouraged me to, send some more stuff to The Upper Room. Well, if you don't know, The Upper Room has a circulation of 6 million people. And it's only, let's see, I looked it up. It's like 350 to 400 words. And you can even submit these things online. I mean, they have a real concise formula is what The Upper Room wants. So with that encouragement from that editor, I decided to submit some stuff to The Upper Room. So I wrote 4 different devotions and I submitted them to The Upper Room. Well, 3 of my devotions got rejected, which happens, but one of my devotions they accepted. And so it got published in there. And the funny thing to me is the one that they accepted was one. Back then I was working on a study guide in the Passion Translation for the book of Isaiah. So I was spending all this time in Isaiah. And in Isaiah 20, the very first part of that chapter, there's a verse that most of us have skipped over or forgotten, because in that verse, God tells the prophet Isaiah to take off all his clothes, including his sandals, and to walk around naked for 3 years. I mean, that's a long time. And so in my little devotion for The Upper Room, I highlighted that verse, but I highlighted the fact that the prophet Isaiah listened to God and then he took action. He did what God asked him to do. And so I bridged that into, am I listening to God? Am I really doing what God's asked me to do? And so that was my little devotion that The Upper Room took. And I was quite amused that that's the one that they took from me. But, you can do this kind of thing. So just look for these different kinds of writing and it'll rejuvenate you, I think, to just try different kinds of writing. I've got a list. That's another link here. My list of different types of writing. It's from the first chapter of my Jumpstart for Publishing Dreams book that I did. And you can get that whole chapter right there following that link and take a look at all the different kinds of writing that we can do. I mean, there's many, many different things that we can do and we can get published. If an editor's asked you to send your stuff to them, send it to them. It's that simple. And even if it's way after the fact, send it to them. And that will at least get you in the running that you can possibly get it published. I mean, people wonder how in the world I've written more than 60 books for traditional publishers and for more than 50 magazines. And it's not that I'm the best writer in the room by any means, but I am consistent and persistent. And that fact that I submit stuff really does pay off at the end of the day. The third way, simple action that I'd give you to boost your publishing career this year is really to learn how to write a query letter and a book proposal. Query letters that pitch, one-page pitch that you need for a magazine, or maybe it's your book pitch actually to get the book editor to say, yes, send me your proposal or send me your manuscript. But learn how to do that. That's really something that you can do. And on the book proposal front, my book proposals that sell book, I've got the link to that there where you can get the whole book free from me. It's an ebook version of the book. And we at Morgan James, we give that away for a simple reason, because we've learned that if you get that ebook version from me and start to read that ebook version, there's a high probability you're going to turn and buy the print copy of the book. So our author support team at Morgan James will makes this ebook, and we give that away because that drives print book sales at the end of the day. And we give those email addresses to our authors. So the other day, for example, I asked our marketing team for those email addresses. Well, they sent me over 1,500 emails that I added to my email list. And so look for these kinds of tools out there and use them, and that'll really help you in your publishing life and what you're going to do in the days ahead here. I wrote book proposals that sell as a frustrated book acquisitions editor. I was working at David C. Cook. I could not get all the details from authors that I needed to go in and pitch their book to my publication board. And so I wrote that book out of my own frustration, trying to get better submissions from authors. And to my amazement, the book has over 150 five-star reviews. People have used it to get an agent, to get a $50,000 advance. I mean, all kinds of great things have happened because of this book. Back when I was at Cook writing this book, as a frustrated editor at David C. Cook, our chief operating officer back then, we would sit in this meeting with all the publishing executives were there. The president, the chief operating officer, the head of vice sales, the head of editorial, the head of marketing, the key marketing guys. The chief operating officer, every now and then, when I presented a book, would pipe up and he'd say, well, Terry, we could sell two of those, one to me and one to somebody else. Well, that statement from him was his deal killer for the room because none of us were trying to sell two copies of anything. We were trying to sell thousands of copies of the book. So whenever I heard that from him, it's like, well, okay, guys, that's all for that one. And we flip the tab and go on to the next book. But you really want to learn how to create a good book proposal and a good query letter, because that's your entrance and that's your tool. And I don't care what kind of book you're writing. I'm of the opinion that even if you self-publish, you need to write a book proposal, because that, at the end of the day, is your business plan. It says what you're going to do and why you're going to do it, who your readers are going to be, who's your competition. There's a lot of work that goes into these proposals, but it's a very necessary document. And I hope each of you will really dig in and learn how to do that and then produce great proposals. I've had the great opportunity in my writing life. I've written two proposals that got six-figure advances, actually. I have long stories about what happened and didn't happen with those books, but it is possible. You just have to put it together in the right kind of way here at the end of the day. The fourth way that I would give you to boost your publishing life in this year is to learn the different paths to publishing. There are really three paths that I see. There's traditional, where you get a literary agent. Your literary agent sells your book to a publisher. Publisher prints the book. I've done a lot of those books. I've written for Tyndale and Zondervan and Thomas Nelson and Bethany House and Brahman and Holman, all these different publishers through the years. Uh, it's harder and harder to get a traditional deal these days at the end of the day, but it is still possible. Self-publishing is the other thing that's exploding out there, but you do it all yourself. I mean, I met somebody the other day who'd published with Zulon, and they'd spent $6,000 to publish with Zulon, and I just thought that what a tragedy in a sense to do that, because the average self-published book is going to sell a couple hundred copies throughout the lifetime of the book, and you do it all yourself at the end of the day. Now, the third option is that hybrid or independent publishing, like what we do at Morgan James. We're actually in that category. And so my resource for you in this area is to get a free copy of this new book. It comes out this month, called The Babylon Blueprint for Authors. It's by our founder at Morgan James, David Hancock. It's basically the updated version of guerrilla marketing for writers, because there's a lot of marketing ideas, low cost, no cost marketing ideas that are in that book. But the reason I think it's a great book is because it has 40 pages in that book that highlight these three different ways and compare them. So I actually have my book here. This is it, called The Babylon Blueprint for Authors. I don't know if you can see it or not, but anyway, maybe that's it. Maybe there you can see it. Okay. Anyway, got my little props here. So look at that link though, and use that as another way to boost your publishing life, is to find the right way to get your book out there. I freely admit the whole marketing thing as authors is hard. It's hard for all of us. But the truth is that most of us aren't persistent and consistent with that marketing in order to find the right way for us at the end of the day. I remember hearing Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield, the co-authors on the Chicken Soup for the Soul. Those guys were rejected over 150 times before they finally found a publisher to publish their book in Florida. Now, they told their publisher that they were going to sell 1 million books in the first year. Their publisher laughed at them. They never sold 1 million copies of anything. They thought that was a ridiculous idea. It took them 1.5 years to sell their first 1 million copies of Chicken Soup for the Soul. Well, how in the world did they do that? Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield practiced what they call the rule of 5. They got up every day and they did 5 things to tell people about their book. They did a radio show, a live event, a guest blog post, a podcast, a newspaper article. I mean, there's dozens of things you can do. They got John Kramer's, I don't know if you've seen this book. It's over 700 pages, 101 ways to market your book. So they got that book from John, and they tried to do all those things in that book. They tried them over and over, because what's going to work for you is going to be different than what's going to work for me. So we all have to find our path in this process. So if the Babylon Blueprint for Authors is a boost for you to be able to find that option of what it's going to take for you to sell your book, then I really want you to use that and grab onto that this year and use it with your books and your writing. The fifth way that I would give you to boost your writing life is to, whatever path you're on, really be consistent and persistent. Maybe you write in short bursts. Um, I have a blog post article here that I linked to that I wrote about my friend Beth Adams, who's the editorial director at Faith Words. Beth lives in Brooklyn, but she gets her side hustle is she's written over 80 books, but every day she gets up at 5 a.m. and writes. She spends an hour or two writing for her side hustle. But I mean, her real job is she lives in Brooklyn and she's the editorial director for Faith Words. So she's got a full-time gig, but her side hustle is writing these books for other people. And she's published more than 80 books. I mean, how's she done that? She's done it just by being persistent and consistent. I mean, I got in on the early days of blogging, for example. I started my blog on the writing life in like 2004. I have over 1,800 entries that are in my blog. And all I did was I write a little blog post once a week and I send it out there. I have about 400 people that get my blog post on their email on Monday. I have this thing that goes out online and searches for my name out there. A little over a year ago, I found this article that listed the top 27 content producers out there. They had people like Ryan Holiday and Seth Godin and Jeff Goins, people like that. My name was one of those top 27. And it's not that I do anything magical here. I've just been blogging consistently since 2004, every week. So I figure, hey, if I can do it, you can do it. And it's a way that you can boost your writing life and just by being persistent and consistent in that process. The sixth way that I would give you to boost your writing life is to try different kinds of tools. Like, for example, a little over a year ago, David Hancock, I saw him. He was out here in Los Angeles, and I went up to LA and met with him at the Beverly Hills Hilton. And he was telling me that I really needed to be involved in podcasting. Well, I know that's a huge area. And so he encouraged me to join this company called Podmatch. So if you go to thepodmatch.com, that's what the link is there on the handout to go to thepodmatch.com. You can learn about Podmatch. They're connected to over 90,000 podcasts. So here in the last year, I've been pitching. I mean, I get matched all the time on Podmatch. And so I have to pitch these podcast hosts. I don't have a podcast myself, but in the last year, I booked or recorded over 70, I say 60 on here, but it's really over 70 podcasts that I've done. So I don't have to do the production to do a podcast. I don't have to figure all that out. Instead, I just been guest podcasting on other people's podcasts. And so I just like here, I just turn on my camera and hook up my microphone and I'm all ready to go and talk about publishing expectations is what I've been podcasting about. But yours will be different, but figure out what's going to work for you and try to use those things and try new tools. That's another way you can boost your publishing life this year. The last way that I would give you to really boost your life is if you need help, ask. There's a verse in the book of James that says, "You have not because you ask not." That's one of the great things about this group is you can ask different people and get their help, and you don't have to do it alone. You can really ask for their help, and I'm sure they'll give it to you. But you've got to reach out and ask as a part of this, uh, is one of the ways you can really, really help yourself. So I know I've flown through my material here, but have I raised any questions? Anything anybody'd like to ask me? Do you understand how my handout works and all that kind of thing? Mike.
I love so much of what you said here, and I did put the um, uh, the
Link in the
URL
chat.
in the chat box so
Yes,
that you can
that's
find it.
good.
But I mean, everything here is just fantastic, and the consistency and the persistence. Um,
How do I stop sharing my screen? I don't even know how to do that.
Hit escape.
Escape.
Escape might do it for you. I don't know.
No.
Okay.
If not,
Wait a
there
minute.
might be a red
I got to
box
get
at the
over to
bottom of
Zoom.
the screen.
That's what I got to do. I'm not on Zoom. Let's see. Where is it?
There's
Stop
a
share.
red
There it
button.
is.
Yeah, there we go.
There it is. Stop share. Okay. Okay.
And even like with the blogging, I started in 2010. I blogged. I invited people to read through the Bible in a year with me, but I did it. I wrote like it was stupid. 6 days a week, I was writing 1,000 words a day. So I was writing 6,000 words a week on this blog, and I had sent it out on Facebook, and I had, I don't know, 100 people on it, and all of a sudden, after about 5 months, Google found it, and boom, and it just exploded. And I did it for 2 years. I had 150,000 hits, but to your point, being consistent, I just, oh man, you're so right.
I mean, they say there's over 600 million blogs out there, And so that they would choose me as being one of the top 27. I mean, I don't even understand that, Mike, but they
Right.
did. And it's all I'm doing is blogging every week, once a week, you
Yeah,
know.
it's great. Any questions for Terry?
How long are the blogs that you do once a week?
Oh, they're like 500 to 800 words, that kind of thing. And I have links to other stuff, and I basically just blog about my life as a writer editor. I have these things that happen, and authors do funny things and interesting things, and uh, I put that stuff in my blog. I figure I might as well. People read it. It's amazing to me. Yes.
Tanya.
Terry, when you're doing podcasting, are you, I mean, with this pod match thing, are you focusing on a specific topic or two or three, or are you
I am.
looking at a lot?
I am. Yeah. The thing I liked about Podmatch is they have some good orientation to how to set up your profile and all that kind of thing. For mine, for example, I've been promoting my 10 Publishing Myths book.
Okay.
And so I've been talking on these podcasts about unrealistic expectations that authors have for their book. And so I've been pointing people to my offer, which is publishingoffer.com. Publishing offer. That's where they can get my 10 Publishing Myths book for only $10, along with over $200 worth of bonuses. Now, if they don't want to do that, and that they get it for $10, that includes the shipping. And if they don't want to do that, I also send them to the 11th myth that they can get for free from me. So if they go to terrylinks.com/11th myth, 11th myth, then they get on my newsletter list, but they can get that for free. So yeah, I have questions, and it's all focused on that kind of thing. And so I pitch these people, and they come back to me and they say, well, that's not hardly right, but could you do this? And I say, sure. And so we get on there. I mean, one of the blog posts that I was on recently was it's called Just Talking About Jesus. That's the whole purpose. And that's not the purpose of my book at all, but I got on there and I pitched my book a little bit as a part of it, but really I basically told my story about how I came to Jesus, and we talked about that kind of thing. And so they're all different what they do, but I mean, it's been a lot of fun, Tanya, talking with these people. I mean, these podcasters are all over the world. I mean, I can think of a guy that was in Thailand or wherever they are in Asia. It's a lot of fun. So I've been on some of them a couple of different times. It's been good.
I have a question for you, Terry.
Yes.
How did you get into publishing?
I got into publishing. Well, I majored in journalism in college, but I I left I left my journalism because I went into linguistics for 10 years, and then I returned to my writing because I was a magazine editor at Wycliffe. I was the head of head of their editorial department. We had a magazine called In Other Words that I put out. And so I was doing that kind of thing. Um, my first book got published. I went to Mount Hermon. And while I was there, I'd been writing for magazines and publishing stuff in magazines. But I was out walking with the editor from David C. Cook one day, and she said, "Terry, I have a problem." I'm like, "Well, what's your problem?" She says, "Well," she says, "we have all these books at David C. Children's book that we publish at David C. Cook, and our mission is to tell kids about the world and how they can tell people about Jesus all over the world, but we don't have a single book about that. What kind of ideas do you have?" And I said, "Well, what if we took our real pictures at Wycliffe and combined them with a little cartoon character to show kids that they could go anywhere they wanted to in the world?" And she looked at me and she said, "That's a good idea, Terry. Write that up and send that to me." So I did what I tell you a lot of people don't do at these writers' conferences. I mean, I made a little note, I wrote it up, and I sent it to her. And I mean, we had to go back and forth a bunch before that ultimately became my first book that was published in 1992, a little children's book that I did called When I Grow Up, I Can Go Anywhere for Jesus. And it's a little picture book that I did. And so I've had amazing opportunities through the years to write all kinds of stuff, and it's been a lot of fun doing this stuff.
Well, one of the things that strikes me about what you've been talking about tonight, and even in you're not afraid of rejection. Because you go into it expecting the rejection, and then that way you're not surprised. And I just see this people, I'm traditionally published too, and people sometimes they're afraid to get that first rejection. Oh, they're so, Paul Young got rejected 30 times before deciding he was going to publish the Shack by himself, but that's just that fearlessness has really worked to your benefit.
Well, I get rejected all the time, Mike. I mean, I have people that sign your contract instead of mine. I mean that happens. And I guess what I've learned out of doing this stuff for years is that there's only one person on the planet that I have any control over at all, and that's me. And so I just keep doing my thing, whatever that is. Does it work? Sometimes. Sometimes I get rejected. It's just
Right.
part of how it works, I guess.
Well, this is kind of an aside. I met with an author. I can't remember when it was, like in the last month or two. He said, "Yeah, I'm talking to you and Morgan James." And I said, "Is it Terry Whalen?" The guy said, "Yes." And you know what I said? I can't say anything negative about him. I will not.
I can't say anything negative
You
about you
know,
either.
and I said Morgan. If you end up with Morgan James, they're great. And Terry is a good man, and he's a friend of mine. And so anyway, I have a lot of respect for what you do.
Well, we're making good books. It's a lot of fun, and and I hear the stories all the time. I'm sure you do too, Mike, of these people that they had an agent, they they shopped it all over the place. They couldn't find a publisher, but yet they wanted to get their book published. I mean, I have a book that comes out later this month called Your Aging Advantage with two healthcare executives. One lives in New York City and one lives in Australia. And these guys, I mean, they had an editor, a ghostwriter, the whole bit. They had a top agent, got shopped all over the place. They couldn't find a publisher. Marie Schreiber almost took it at Penguin, but she didn't publish it. She didn't offer. And so this editor that they're working with is somebody that I worked with years ago when she was at Pearson Education. And she said, "Hey, maybe that hybrid thing that Terry Whalen's doing with Morgan James, maybe that would work for
Right.
you guys." So they sent to us. Uh, we offered them a contract. They published their book with us. These guys were keynoting in November, last November, a big conference in Boston, and they had books from us for this conference. They had books to sell. Their book is coming out here the 30th of March. And I think that's amazing that we do this kind of stuff and help these people out there that really they need our help.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions for Terry? I highly encourage you to go click that link in the chat box and download what he gave us. I sure appreciate that. So
I actually, I've got one question.
okay.
Um,
Sure.
when, when you're on all these different podcasts um, and articles and things like that, how much do you utilize that, like putting it back on your own website and marketing it through social media and things like that? How much time do you spend doing that?
That's a good question. The podcast, particularly, um, I cycle through all that and send that out to my social media connections. If it's a new podcast, I add it to my blog post for that week, and so
Oh,
that goes out there to 400 people doing that. Uh, my social media following is pretty big. I mean, I have 170,000 followers on X, Twitter. I have 19,000 connections on LinkedIn. I have 4,900 Facebook friends. But I have a whole system of what I do with my social media, but I spend about 30 minutes a day on that stuff, Tracy. So I don't spend a lot of time on that.
okay.
But people read it and people respond to that stuff. And so it is amazing to me. So every day, as a part of my 12 to 15 posts that I'm doing a day, I have something, one of my podcasts that I've done. So I cycle through those. So it's not just a one-time thing that I put that podcast out there on social media. I understand from listening to the people at Podmatch that one of the negative things that people do that are guests on other people's podcasts is they don't promote the podcast after they're on
Right.
it. It's like, really? Why would you not promote that? I mean, I don't understand it. I mean, I've been on a podcast twice now called Earrings Off. And I don't think any of us would know what that is exactly, but my African American friends knew right away because if you're an African American woman, you take your earrings off before you fight. Is what you do.
Mhm.
And so they called their podcast Earrings Off. And so I've been on the Earrings Off podcast twice. And I have a fun time talking to these ladies. I think it's good, you know.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
You
All
just got to
right.
do it every day. That's what I'm doing. And it's amazing the doors of opportunity that are out there for us. And
Yeah.
it's just it's incredible. I I have a big time doing it, so it's fun.
Awesome. Really good stuff. Hey, Tanya, could you close us in prayer? Oh, you got to unmute first,
I
though.
know.
Or you have to do sign language.
I would be glad to. Father, we're
Mm.
always so grateful for the time we have together and to be able to share and to learn, and mostly just to fellowship with those who are like minded. And I just pray right now that your blessings will rest upon us. Lord, that you would guide and direct each of us into the place that you want us to go. Continue to bless Terry and his ministry. Continue to give him all the things he needs to be successful in your eyes, not in the world's eyes. And I just thank you for each of us that have gathered here. I pray that you'll use us mightily for your kingdom in the coming days. In the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
And
All right. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We'll
Thank
meet in
you.
person next month. So,
Okay.
Okay.
all right. See you all soon.
good.
Thank you,
Have a
Bye.
good
Terry.
night.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.